All right, guys, so today I came out, I blew all the dust off my 55 and decided to take it out and drive it just a little bit. I just drove around the housing addition, went up here to the gas station, and then come back because it's been a while since I took it out and drove it. And anyway, I left it sitting outside. But anyway, my project for today was to work on the steering linkage on Steve's 55. I wanted to get that knocked out. I am out of paint, the paint I'm going to use, so I'm going to have to buy some. I think in the last video, I did all this side of the front suspension, and I put the coil spring in, and put the nut on this, and then that was it. It has the hub on it, the caliper, brake hose, the bump stop, and the ball joints are greased. So the steering is pretty much, or the suspension's pretty much done up here. Just have the steering linkage to go. Anyway, that was going to be my project for today. Now, I'd already painted the center link here. I'd blasted and painted it. It has the race pieces pressed in for the idler arm bearing conversion kit. And I'd put in a stainless steel 90-degree Zerk fitting because I have a bunch of those here. Anyway, Steve had bought all new inner and outer tie rods, sleeves, clamps, bolts, all that stuff's in here. Got a new dust sleeve here. And then this is original stuff that I cleaned up. I was looking at this. I don't know if these are painted or not. Just open that up. No, that's cast. That's bare metal. So these are going to have to be painted. I kind of figured they would be. I actually thought they may have been phosphate coated black like they do their ball joints. But in which those started getting rusty. So I wanted to go ahead and paint these. So I'm going to pull the nuts off, and I'm going to pull the boot off, and I'm going to mask off the stud there, or the stem. And then I got to clean all the oil. These are oily. I got to clean all the oil off. And then I'm going to use just some Duplicolor engine enamel spray paint, probably some semi-gloss black. But I'm going to have to go down to O'Reilly's and buy a can because I've used it all up. So now I got to paint all this stuff to put it on there. But anyway, that was going to be the project for today. But since I'm out of paint, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But anyway, I've been having a little bit of a problem with this. I kind of touched on it in one of the videos. Steve come by here Monday, brought me a few parts, and you know, he walked in here and looked at the car. And I told him that I didn't really do a whole lot of work to it. And then when I figured up the calendar, I write on the calendar the hours that I put in on the car. When I figured it up, I was surprised, and he's obviously surprised. But he had stated while he was here, you didn't do anything. But I was like, wow. It bothered me. Like I didn't even sleep that night because of it. I don't want anybody to ever think bad of me or feel like I got to them or overcharged them for something, because I wouldn't do that, especially family. But anyway, I'd done a few things to it, but I didn't remember everything I'd done in the last month and a half or 2 months. And he had stated that he paid me just a couple weeks ago, and it wasn't. It was the end of February is when I was paid last. So anyway, it's been a little bit more time than that. So it's April, you know what I mean? So anyway, I decided I'm going to go through here and I'm going to show some of the stuff that I did to the car. Now, I'd mentioned it in several videos ago that I had bought a new GoPro, a used GoPro from eBay, because my other GoPro quit. So I didn't want to buy a new one, so I just bought a used one. So there was a time that I'd come out here and work on a car. I didn't have a GoPro to film anything. So if you don't film it, you didn't do anything, I guess. So I'm going to kind of run you guys through some of the stuff I'd done on the car, because I didn't remember everything I'd done. But anyway, I'm going to start over here. So when I first got this car here, I started working I adjusted the door, brought it up, and I was working on the windows because none of the windows were working on this car correctly. They were all in a bind and just not working right. Some of the hardware was gone. They had mixed match hardware in places. I mean, it was a big mess, but fortunately I had all the hardware over there in slide trays for all that stuff. But anyway, I needed to put, I had the door glass in it, and I think I adjusted the flipper and all that kind of stuff and relined the quarter tracks and all that. But by the time I got ready to put the door window in for good, he didn't have any rollers. The rollers were missing out of here. There's a roller that goes on here, and there's a roller that goes on here. You have to put this one on before you put the door glass in. So anyway, he ordered those a long time ago. That was back when I was doing this stuff. And by the time, the parts came in and all that, we were, I was doing a frame off on it. So I never did get back to putting the door glass in it. And I didn't want to put them in there because it's a little bit less weight with me taking the body off the frame on 4x4 posts and having it hanging out there, you know what I mean? So I just wrapped the windows up in towels and put them in my spare bedroom. So anyway, that is one thing that I did to the car. I put the door windows in it. Well, at least this one. I'll show you the other one here in a minute. This is pretty interesting stuff. So anyway, I've got the door glass in, the rollers are on. I did not put the bottoming stops in here. There's a stop that goes in here with a rubber cushion, and it adjusts the height of the window coming up. And I did not put those in because I need to go buy a tap and clean all the paint and crap out of these threaded nuts that are welded into the door frame here. So anyway, the track's screwed on with the correct screws, I should say. You can see this glass piece here, the track right here. The window, this snaps onto the bottom of the window, and it has this kick out here, and there's another one up here, and it's for those stops. That's what that stop comes in contact with. So anyway, it has a deal here as well. But anyway, that door glass is installed, and the stainless is on the wing window frame. It's got the new door lock in it. Now these door locks are new. When I first got the car here and started messing with it, they had the door locks backwards. They had the left on the right and the right on the left. There wasn't a key on the keychain that fit those door locks. So I called him and asked him about it, and he said, well, it used to. So I don't know if they lost a key to them or what. The shop, I don't know. So Steve bought a lock set for the glove box, the trunk, and the doors. So I put this door lock in. When you buy a new lock set, every freaking time, the ones that I've gotten, they are never high polished. They're always dull. So I polished the locks and then installed it correctly, and it works with the key and everything like it's supposed to. So anyway, I done a little bit of work on this door. The door glass doesn't have to come back out. And then I come over here to this side. Now the windows, I come out, put the window in, and as I'm putting it in there, I realize there's overspray on the windows, and I showed this to him. You can't really see it because there's dust on the car, but there is white overspray on all the glass. So when they reshot this car, it got reshot a second time, but they'd already put all the windows in it, and they just taped everything off. There's white overspray all over the glass. So anyway, the door glasses, I ended up taking them in my house, putting them on towels, hosing them down with Windex, and then I used 4-aught steel wool and cleaned the overspray off on the glass. Got them shined up pretty good. Then I come out and put it in there. So then I come over here and put it in here, and I actually feel kind of dumb because I never realized it. So I put the roller in, then I put the door glass in there, and then I get down here to put the screws in the track. This is another left window track. This is not for the right side. This is supposed to be the other way, and it has these little claws that stick out that go over this. So, I mean, this will work, but the window's probably going to be a little bit firm to roll up and down. I mean, it will screw on there, but it's just not going to be the way it's supposed to be. So I'm going to have a right side track for this. So that's where I stopped on that. I was done at that point. Now in my shed, I think I have a track, and I think it's brand new in the package. So I've got to go out and pull a whole bunch of crap out of that shed because I can't even walk in that shed. I open the door and I'll have to pull stuff out to get in there because I think it's up in the loft. So big mess there I got to do. Well, I'm glad I seen that. So I got these T-clamps right here. I bought those to put on the car. So back when I was working on this car at his house, driving back and forth, he lives about, I would say it's, I don't know, 30, 35, 40 minutes from here. And before I would drive all the way over there for $35 an hour and not charge any gas, no mileage or anything like that. So all the gas was coming out of my pocket, and my truck doesn't get the greatest gas mileage. So anyway, we did a trunk mount battery on the car, and we were just trying to get the car running. This was before we found out all the problems it had. So we got a trunk mount battery kit, and in the trunk mount battery kit, it was actually one that I had an extra of here. I have 2 of them. I bought one extra by mistake, and then I never even used the first one. But I've got a second one here. Now I traded him or gave it to him or whatever over at his house. This is a Taylor trunk mount battery kit, and I've used the tray out of it. But this is what comes with it. Little bitty thin plastic hardware store pieces of shit. If you think about it, these, when they get brittle and break, your battery cable's going to sag. And if it sags enough and gets on something sharp or on an edge of something, it could chafe and start a fire. So that's what I put on it at his house. Then we changed frames. So that was another thing I'd done. I started routing the battery cable, which the one that we used on the car, the battery cable's right there. So I've got all the frame rail on this side is drilled and tapped, except one. The tap broke off in the frame. So there's a little bit of it sticking out. I think I can dig it out, but I stopped messing with it. Anyway, it's going to have those nice T-clamps on it with stainless steel screws and not those hardware store piles of crap. Now, when I was going to his house and we put that battery cable on there, we used them cheap plastic white ones like I just showed you along it with just self-drillers. So it wasn't really the nicest install in the world, you know what I mean? Then up here, the battery cable had to kick over and go to the starter to not get on the header. So I had one extra that I had left over from my car. So I took it over there, and that's what I used on his tow board down there for the battery cable. So when the hood's up, you've seen a T-clamp down there. It looked nice, but it had those cheap, cheesy white ones on the rest of it. So I went ahead and bought 2 packages of those T-clamps, and that's what it's going to have on all of it. So that's another thing I did. So there's parts there that I bought. Trying to go along here. Oh, yeah. Get a light here. I installed the gas tank. It is in the car, it's bolted down. The only thing left is trimming off the fuel line, flaring it, and hooking it up to the sender. So right here, that is the fill tube right there. And you can see this is the electric gas door setup. They filled the quarter panel up there for where the gas door goes in. So before, the gas tank was moved over because they mini-tubbed it and moved the leaf springs inside, so the tank had been moved over. They cut the original and welded muffler pipe in there, and I guarantee you it would have leaked. So anyway, I had Steve, when I was at his house working on it the first time, I told him to order a 56 Chevy tube, and then I'll cut it down and make it work. But we was still going to have to extend it because the gas tank was over. Then the car came here, I put a new frame under it, and I changed everything back to stock location on the gas tank. So the 56 Chevy fill tube works pretty good for that. But I did have to cut some of it off. Now, 56, let me move this out of the way if I can. The 56 Chevy fills in the taillight, and 57. So there's a little bracket that's supposed to go on there, and they do sell it, reproduce it, but I didn't want him to spend the money on, buying a part and paying freight and all that crap and then having to bring it over here. So I made that. That was a piece of sheet metal, and I cut it, cleaned up, painted it, drilled a hole in it, put a screw in it, and then I bent the tip up and I used a hose clamp. It's not gorgeous, but it works and it doesn't look terrible. They had a hose on there, and I'm assuming that's the vent, and it was just hanging here. So I just put 3 zip ties on it and have it right there. So anyway, I had to cut that fuel filler hose down, put it on there and clamp it on. I put a new O-ring on it and everything. But anyway, this is all pretty much installed. Now that wasn't an easy job, having to fabricate a bracket and do all that crap under there. So there's that. What else? I blasted the spindles. Those got painted with a paint gun. That's not spray paint. I took the ice cooler apart, blasted the handle, blasted those brackets. I drilled the holes bigger to use some stainless steel Allen buttons in there. and then I painted those parts. I prepped the engine and I painted it, base coat, clear coat. Now there's something on that engine that I did while it was here before I painted it. On that 327, there is an oil galley above where the oil filter screws on, and it comes out the side of the block right above where the oil filter would go. That 327 wasn't threaded. It just had freeze plugs in it. So when Jim primed the engine at his house, after he built it, it was dripping oil out of that freeze plug. So he slimed it with silicone. And it was all over the side of that block. So I cleaned all that off. I pulled the freeze plug out, and I used a 1/4 NPT tap. And I tapped it and put a plug in it with thread sealant on it. So I did that. So yeah, I did do some work to the car. And there might be some other stuff, and I'm just not thinking about it. I don't know, but anyway, I'm bummed out because I absolutely don't want Steve to think that I took advantage of him. I wouldn't do that. But anyway, it is amazing because when you work on a part, any of you guys that work on your car, when you do one little thing, it is amazing how much time you can wrap up in one thing. And I'm talking an older guy. I'm 51. I don't move like a 20-year-old kid anymore. I'm a little bit on the slow side. I'm eat up with arthritis, so I don't move that fast. But I can tell you, what I do, I feel is some pretty damn nice work. Quality work. Damn sight better than the way it was when it came here. But I don't just take a piece and throw spray paint on it and call it a day. That piece gets fully sanded down, prepped, wiped off with a grease remover, primed, sanded, and painted most usually. So on occasion I just use, like duplicolor spray paint on something, but I do prep the stuff, you know what I mean? I did put the taillight assembly back in because I had to pull it out. He has a backup light harness in this car, and the backup light harness has a plate that screws into when you take the lens off, there's a plate that goes on there, and that socket goes into that plate. You can't get that out. So I had to cut the wire unless I wanted to take all the tape loose on the harness back through there. So I just cut the wire, pulled it out, cut the wire, and then spliced it back in. And I used a nice connector with heat shrink on it. And anyway, so it's not going to get moisture in it. But anyway, I did the taillight deal, put it back in. It's just, I've done work to the car, and I shouldn't feel bad to be getting paid for what I did. You know what I mean? That's it, I guess. But anyway, he had mentioned in a text after he left here, later that afternoon, he said that he may have to come and get it, and it may have to get put up in his garage for a while. So, I get it. I get it. He's got a lot of money in this car. Anybody that pays somebody else to work on their car or build a whole car, you're going to have a lot of money in it. The general rule of thumb is if you're going to buy a car and you're not doing any of the work, it's best to buy one that's already done. So when you pay somebody, and he's already paid one shop to do it, now he's paying me to redo some of that stuff. So I can imagine, and I totally understand. But what I wanted to do was go ahead and at least get the engine and trans bolted together, get it bolted into the frame, put the drive shaft in it, get the steering linkage on it, get the wheels back on it, and then he can come and get it and put it in his shop for a while if he wants. I totally get it. I'm not hurt about it. Don't care. However, I have another job lined up, and this is a big job. So I don't know when I would get time to get back on his car. And with gas over $3 a gallon and my transmission weak in my truck, I'm not down to drive back and forth to his house. I'm not. When I did it before, I didn't charge gas, mileage, anything like that. And my labor rate went up a year ago to $45 an hour. But back when I started working on his car at his house, it was $35, and I just didn't raise it for him because he's my cousin. But anyway, I have another job lined up, which means more money. But anyway, it is a huge, huge job. There is no floors in it. It's a 48 Chevy sedan delivery. There's no floors. I don't think there's a transmission tunnel. The inner rockers are rusty from the front to the back. All that's going to have to be removed. New panels, cut out of sheet metal, bead rolled and put in and plug welded in. It's going to be a big job. It's an LS with a 4L60 or 80 in it. And it's a full-blown build. However, I don't want to paint it. So I would like to do all the work, and then he can take it and get it painted, and then either have them finish it out or bring it back to me after it gets painted, and I'll assemble it and get it running and all that kind of stuff. It's already got a Heights independent front end in it, Mustang 2 style stuff, and I think the engine and trans is sitting in it, so all the engine mounts and cross member I think is done. But anyway, I can probably be safe to venture that thing would probably be here for at least a year, probably longer, because there's no way I'm going to bring a car here and work on it all the time. I have got to take time to work on my stuff too. So I'm going to be bouncing back and forth. So I would estimate that car to be here for at least a year, probably more. And the guy's not going to care. But it is at a shop right now, and they ain't done much with it in over 10 years. So anyway, he took the thing there over 10 years ago. They done the front end on it. They got the engine and trans set in it. I think they put a different rear end in it. I think they sandblasted the body, and I don't even think they epoxy primed it. I think it's sitting in there in bare metal. It was actually wet blasted, is what my brother-in-law said. It's my brother-in-law's car, but I kind of hinted around to him a few months ago, and I said, when my cousin's car leaves, you ought to bring your 48 over here. And he goes, I'll do that, because he's tired of waiting on this guy. You know what I mean? So anyway, I have another job lined up if this one leaves, but I don't know how long it's going to be before I can get back to Steve's car. So anyway, it is what it is. But anyway, I've been kind of bummed out over that whole deal, and I thought it'd be best just to explain to you guys everything that's going on. So anyway, that's where it's at. I guess I'll go to O'Reilly's and get a can of frickin' engine paint. Might as well go to Lowe's while I'm down there. Get some lock washers for them upper A-arm bushings, the bolts. Thanks for watching.